How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of making the wrong decision? Epictetus once said, "Anxiety comes from wanting to control what we cannot." We spend so much time trying to predict the consequences of every choice that we end up paralyzed and unable to act. In this video, you'll learn how the Stoics approached the fear of making important decisions and how you can apply their wisdom to act with confidence, even when the future is uncertain. What would your life look like if you could make decisions with courage, without being a hostage to the fear of making mistakes? Imagine standing before a major decision. It could be something professional, like changing careers, or something personal, like deciding when to start a family. Whatever the situation, the fear of what might happen after making an important choice arises, turning what should be a step forward into a nightmare of indecision. Your mind becomes flooded with questions. What if it goes wrong? What if I regret it? What if this isn't the best choice? The fear of making decisions is something many of us face, and at times it can be so paralyzing that we end up making no decision at all. We become trapped in a cycle of overthinking, believing that if we wait a little longer, things will become clearer. But does that really happen? Or are we just postponing the inevitable, failing to realize that inaction is also a decision, and often the worst decision of all? We live in a world where every choice feels like it carries enormous consequences. This creates constant pressure to get it right, to avoid failure, to make the perfect decision every time. But here's a truth we rarely hear. There's no such thing as a perfect decision. Stoicism teaches us that trying to predict and control every outcome of a choice is futile because the future, by its very nature, is uncertain. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, had to make decisions that impacted not just his own life, but the fate of an entire empire. Yet he reminds us that the key lies in acting based on what is within our control now, without obsessing over what might happen later. He wrote, "Stop arguing about what it means to be a good person and just be one." In other words, action is what defines our destiny, not indecision. Think about the last time you found yourself stuck between two choices. Perhaps you spent days, weeks, or even months thinking through every possible scenario, analyzing every detail, hoping to find the perfect path. But the reality is that the more you think, the more your fear of making the wrong choice grows. This creates a paralysis that drains your time and energy without offering a clear answer. The Stoics believed that instead of trying to predict the future, we should focus on what we can control in the present. The fear of making decisions stems from our desire to control what lies beyond our reach, the consequences. But as Epictetus said, some things are within our control and others are not. Confuse the two, and you will suffer. Now stop and reflect. How many important decisions have you delayed because you wanted to be certain you were making the perfect choice? How many opportunities have passed you by simply because your fear of making a mistake stopped you from acting? Stoicism challenges us to reverse this mindset, to act with clarity and confidence, knowing that what matters is the present, what you do with what's in your hands right now. How many times have you found yourself at a crossroads where both options seemed risky? Sometimes the weight of the decision feels so overwhelming that we just can't choose. We're stuck between two or more options, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision. But Stoicism teaches us a liberating truth. The future is always uncertain, no matter which choice you make. Think about it. Even when you make the right decision, the outcome is still beyond your control. This means the pressure to get it right is, in reality, an illusion. And indecision, it can be even more damaging than making a mistake. When we take no action, we allow the fear of failure to dictate our lives. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens that disturbs us, but how we react to it." It's our reaction to the fear of failure that holds us back, not the decision itself. Let's consider a metaphor. Imagine you're standing before two doors. Each one leads to a different path. You spend hours, maybe even days, staring at these doors, trying to imagine what lies behind each one. Will the door on the right lead to success? And the one on the left to failure? But here's the reality. You won't know what's behind those doors until you make a choice and walk through one of them. Standing still won't get you anywhere. And that's what Stoicism teaches us. Action is what matters. In many cases, not acting is the worst choice of all. Because while you're frozen in indecision, time keeps moving. Opportunities slip away, changes occur, and you stay in the same place, unable to move forward. And that is a far greater burden than facing the consequences of a choice. The fear of making decisions is rooted in our need to control the future. We want to know exactly what will happen after we make a choice. We want guarantees of success and security. But as the Stoics remind us, uncertainty is a fundamental part of life. Seneca said, "It's not because things are difficult that we don't dare, but because we don't dare that they are difficult." In other words, the difficulty of making important decisions comes from our reluctance to accept the fact that the future is unpredictable. Stoicism invites us to shift how we view decisions. It's not about being right or wrong, but about acting based on what is within our control. What can you do today? How can you prepare and make the best decision possible with the information you have now? This is the Stoic focus. The outcome is beyond your reach, but the choice you make in the present is entirely within your control. Making important decisions requires courage, not because they will guarantee a perfect future, but because they free us from the paralysis that the fear of failure imposes on us. Stoicism teaches us to embrace risk and act with clarity without clinging to what we cannot predict. After all, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that strength comes from understanding that the process of making decisions is more important than their outcomes. Imagine how different your life could be if, instead of worrying about results, you could focus on what you can do right now. What if the fear of making a mistake no longer paralyzed you, and you could move forward with confidence, knowing that what matters most is to act, not to control the outcome? With this understanding of how the fear of making decisions can paralyze us, it's time to learn how Stoic philosophy can bring clarity and confidence to our choices. Here are 5 Stoic pillars to help you act with courage without being trapped by the uncertainty of the future. Pillar 1. Focus on what is within your control. This is the most fundamental principle of Stoicism. Epictetus reminds us that most of our fears come from trying to control what is beyond our grasp. When making important decisions, your focus should be on what you can do right now. The future. It's uncertain, but the present is within your reach. Imagine you need to decide whether to accept or decline a job offer. Instead of worrying about all the possible future scenarios, ask yourself, what is within my control right now? You can analyze the pros and cons of the offer, seek advice from trusted people, and weigh your options. But the final outcome, whether the job will be perfect or not, is beyond your control. Focusing on what you can decide with clarity now removes the weight of future uncertainty. Pillar 2. Accept mistakes as part of the process. The Stoics believed that mistakes are a natural part of life and that no decision is ever perfect. Seneca said, "The greatest mistake is doing nothing out of fear of making a mistake." The truth is, by trying to avoid mistakes at all costs, we often end up making more by choosing inaction. When faced with an important decision, understand that every choice comes with risks. What matters is acting based on what you know in the moment. Consider a financial decision, for instance. You might be afraid of investing your money due to the risk of loss, but not acting also carries risks, the risk of not growing your money. Accepting that mistakes are part of the journey takes away the pressure to always get it right. Pillar 3. Practice simplicity in your decisions. Marcus Aurelius believed that we often complicate decisions with unnecessary details. He wrote, "Simplicity is the key to a full life." Stoicism teaches us to simplify the decision-making process by focusing only on what truly matters. When faced with a complex choice, ask yourself, what is the simplest solution here? This doesn't mean being careless, but cutting out the excess details that only increase anxiety. Think about something like moving to a new city. You could spend months analyzing neighborhoods, schools, traffic, and weather. But in the end, the most important and straightforward question is, will this move bring me closer to my goals and values? By narrowing down to the essentials, you eliminate information overload and find clarity. Pillar 4. Make decisions based on your values. Seneca taught that a fulfilled life comes from living according to our values. Often, indecision arises when we try to please everyone or seek external approval. Stoicism invites us to look inward and base our choices on what truly matters to us. If you're facing a tough decision, ask yourself, does this align with my values? For example, if a career choice has you feeling stuck, think about what truly matters to you: work-life balance, purpose, or growth. When guided by your values, decisions become much clearer because you're acting based on what makes sense to you, not to others. Pillar 5. Act with courage, despite uncertainty. Stoicism teaches us that, despite uncertainty, courage is what moves us forward. Marcus Aurelius said, "The right action at any moment is always the most courageous one." Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, but the ability to act even when guarantees are absent. Think of a moment when you felt torn between acting or waiting. Perhaps it was a decision to start a business or to follow an unconventional path. Fear may have held you back for a while, but once you finally made the choice, you realized that taking action was the best step, even without knowing what lay ahead. Stoic courage is this: acting with integrity and confidence, knowing the future is uncertain, but the present is in your hands. You've made it this far, and now you hold solid pillars to face the fear of making important decisions. Stoicism reminds us that while we cannot control the future, we can control the choices we make in the present. And it is in these choices that we find the true strength to move forward, even in the face of uncertainty. The fear of making decisions can paralyze us, but as we've seen, the answer doesn't lie in waiting for the perfect moment or a guarantee of success. The answer lies in acting with confidence, guided by our values and what we can do right now. Mistakes are part of the journey, and inaction is often the greatest failure of all. Imagine how different your life could be if, instead of fearing what might happen after each decision, you focused on what truly matters, the action you take today. With the 5 Stoic pillars, you can transform fear into courage and indecision into clarity. Because in the end, it's not the choices themselves that shape our destiny, but how we act in the face of them. What will you do today to change the course of your decisions? How can you start applying these principles right now to make decisions with more confidence and less fear? If this video brought you clarity and strength to face your important decisions, leave a comment below sharing which of the Stoic pillars resonated with you the most. I'd love to hear how you plan to put these teachings into practice in your life. And don't forget to subscribe to the Stoic Solutions Now channel to keep learning how to apply Stoicism in your daily life. Here, we focus on turning Stoic philosophy into practical solutions for the biggest challenges of modern life. Like, share this video with someone who also needs to make decisions with greater confidence, and keep practicing these Stoic lessons. The power to make important decisions with clarity and courage is in your hands, and the time to act is now.